Celebrity Series of Boston, we believe that the arts belong to all of us. And for more than 80 years, we have presented artists that inspire and enrich, encouraging us to hear and see something new, something different.
Good evening. On behalf of Celebrity Series of Boston, I'm Robin Baker, Associate Director of Community Engagement. This season, Neighborhood Arts, our community program in 6 Boston neighborhoods, hosts local artists on selected Thursdays on YouTube and Facebook Live. For a full calendar of events, please visit us online at celebrityseries.org. Many of our best programming ideas come from our local artists. 3 years ago, while researching music for a tribute to Pablo Casals, we discovered Mike Block had arranged some unique cello choir pieces. Since we enjoy finding ways for our roster artists to perform together, tonight's program is a Neighborhood Arts exclusive. Everyone in front of and behind the cameras for this evening's concert has passed a COVID-19 test and will be wearing masks. Adhering to the state's health and safety guidelines keeps our environment safe and allows us to keep bringing concerts to you all. You have the best seats in the house, so relax and enjoy this program of world music from 6 continents, recorded at the Futura Production Studio in Massachusetts and filmed by the Loop Lab. There will be a brief Q&A with tonight's musicians after the show. Since we miss seeing you in person so much and love hearing from you, please leave comments and questions for the Q&A in the chat box. So without further ado, please welcome the Neighborhood Arts Quartet.
Hello and welcome to the Global Inspirations performance. It's not often, under any circumstances, that four cellists get to play together, but we've had a really great time preparing this program for you. My name is Mike Block, and I want to introduce you to Francesca McNeeley, Jesse Christeson, and Javier Caballero. We are, for this concert, making our debut as the Neighborhood Arts Cello Quartet. We all play in other projects that have a long history with the Neighborhood Arts program of the Celebrity Series. We're so happy to come together for this special program. Thank you for tuning in. We are going to be playing music from across the world, music inspired by cultures across the world. What you just heard was a set of two pieces. The first is actually a Catholic hymn dedicated to the Virgin Mary, but it is in a native language of the Inca Empire in the New World, and it's about 400 years old. The music was served sort of a missionary purpose, and so translating standard hymns into native languages was a key part of the spread of Catholicism. And then the second piece that we played actually reverses that relationship, and it was composed by a Spanish composer, Juan Arañez, and he also lived about 400 years ago. And that chacona that he wrote, A la Vida Bona, is fantastic and has been stuck in Jesse's head ever since our first rehearsal. But what's interesting is the chaconne is a dance that originated in Latin America and found its way back in Europe and being used as a primary sort of compositional form, from Juan Arañez's time through Bach. And so as we kick off this sort of global journey we're excited to take you on, I want to sort of just plant the seed that even music we associate with a specific location and time is always and inevitably the result of multiple influences, often from across the world and from different times. And so that's really what makes global music such a fascinating, repertoire to commit to exploring, because there's always a deeper story to every single piece. And so we're just so excited to get to play some of our favorite music for you tonight. We're going to be playing some trios, some quartets, some duos, and the next piece will be our first solo of the evening, and it's going to come to us from Javier.
much that piece that you just heard is titled La Borinqueña, and that was an original arrangement that I created for this concert tonight. So you just heard the premiere.
Yeah.
And it also happens to be the unofficial national anthem of Puerto Rico, which is where I'm from. And the primary melody has a very interesting origin story, which you should check out online in our digital program. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Jesse. I hope you can hear me through this mask okay. So in this crazy year, with everything that's going on, I found myself drawn towards listening to two types of music, really. Really modern, new stuff that is reflective of our times and relevant, and also things that maybe are from my past or things that make me nostalgic for the way that I used to perceive the world as, perhaps. And this song, falls into that latter category. It's a song called Appalachia Waltz by Mark O'Connor, who's a fiddle player. And that album, which is named the same as that song, which also features Yo-Yo Ma and Edgar Meyer, was a frequent part of the playlist for my family when I was a child, and we would take our summer road trips almost every year from Florida to the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. And this song had popped up again recently, and it immediately sent me back to that time and made me feel that way. And then I found out that there was an arrangement for solo cello, and I thought, oh man, I've got to play this song, and I'm glad to have this excuse to do so. It was only after I came to rehearsals and told everybody I was going to play it that I found out that Mike actually toured this song with Mark O'Connor, if I'm not mistaken, for like 3 years, so no pressure. But anyway, here is Appalachia Waltz by Mark O'Connor. All right, what's next?
Another fiddle tune.
All right.
Incidentally. you may have noticed we're sharing some of Bach's most famous pieces for cello, but in trio form. Those pieces are known for their polyphonic texture, with a single performer, often burdened with, carrying multiple personalities to make that music come to life. And so we've got these new arrangements, actually, where you're hearing these different polyphonic voices literally talking to each other and hearing these new connections, even in a piece that we're all really familiar with. And what's great about Bach is, in many ways, he was, a globally inspired composer. The jig we just played is, a dance and a fiddle tune style from Ireland, and then later we're going to play an Allemand, which is a German dance, which is where he's from. But the courant of the Baroque suite is French, and the sarabande has some Spanish, but also some Latin American roots. And so even in a very standard classical piece, there are elements of the whole world. And the person that all of us, owe a great debt to, who really brought the Bach cello suites to the world, was the great Pablo Casals. And the Celebrity Series has a long history of bringing people together. And one of the most special events I've gotten to be a part of since I moved to Boston was a special concert just over a year ago. Many of us were involved in this weekend tribute to Pablo Casals, and we recreated his concert program on his first American tour. And so, different people played different pieces that he actually played in Boston on that first tour. And I also wrote a song inspired by Casals and also dedicated to him that was premiered on one of these concerts. And it's just become a really special song for me, partly because I stole almost all of the lyrics from Pablo Casals himself, from his book, a memoir called Joys and Sorrows. And so there's actually some quotes in here, musical quotes as well. And you'll hear the Catalan folk song that really kind of became identified with Casals, the Song of the Birds. And you also hear some Bach references, which was important to Casals. And just in general, his embrace of, being a contributing member of, the world, of society, first and foremost, before identifying as a musician. He's a real inspiration to so many of us. And we're actually going to premiere the in-person premiere of a brand new duo part that I wrote to accompany me on this song. It was premiered in a digital event just last month that Francesca was also a part of. The cello part was written and premiered by Yo-Yo Ma in a video collaboration. So I am so excited because with Francesca, this is the first time I've gotten to play with this new part with somebody in the same room as me. And she's really just playing it so beautifully. Thank you for learning this. This is a song we're going to play for you now. It's called When the Birds Sing Along in the Morning. See machines that fly. Will they ever build a way to save ideas that die? Ooh. The sense of sunlight, the sound of the sea was the beginning of me. Even grown men cry to be free, dreaming of what could be. But each day I'm reborn, each day I begin again. The music is never the same when the birds sing along in the morning. as a leaf on a tree. In the autumn you will see the heart is a refugee. But each day I'm reborn, each day I begin again. Music is never the same when the birds sing along in the Thank you, Francesca.
Wiping down.
Pretty warm in here now.
Yeah, very hot.
Step outside.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So next up, I will be playing two movements from Coleridge Taylor Perkinson's Black Folk Song Suite, Lamentations. I chose these selections because I find them personally to be quite mesmerizing. They're very repetitive in a way that is incredibly deep and almost meditative. And the composer described the suite itself as reflections and statements of a people's crying out.
Allemande. Well, lucky for all of you, we have very little talking left and still lots of music left for you. We've got kind of a closing suite planned for you with three pieces. The first is a very well-known and considered traditional really now Turkish tune called Necres Pesrev. And Necres is the scale, and Pesrev is actually the musical form. So it's sort of the Ottoman equivalent of minuet in C. And so this is actually a well-known piece by a well-known Turkish composer, Ali Ufki Bey, who is fascinating, not just for the music he wrote, but for the fact that his origin story is he was actually born in Poland, and he found his way to what we now call Turkey, and he studied Turkish music, he took a Turkish name, and he became one of the most well-respected composers and musicians of his day. This piece is sort of at the heart of any traditional Turkish musician's repertoire, Necres Pesrev. And we're going to go into a Piazzolla piece called La Muerte del Ángel. Gracias. I wanted to make sure I had the right case there. Thank you. And so this is a really fantastic arrangement by a friend of ours, Blaise Desjardins, who is the principal cellist of the Boston Symphony, and he's got a lot of great arrangements with his Boston Cello Quartet. This is one of them. And then we're going to finish with actually an original composition of mine that is just incredibly inspired and indebted to a group of musicians from West Africa, Mali specifically. I have a project with the balafon player, Bala Koyate, and he and I have done a lot together. And you know, whenever you're working with musicians from another culture, it's a really good idea to figure out how to say thank you in their language, especially when they're sharing their music with you. So that's one of the first things I learned in Bala's language of the Mandinka tribe. Iniche Kosobe means thank you very much. And so we want to say Iniche Kosobe to everybody at the Celebrity Series for having us, helping to keep us safe and putting on this program for you. And for Robin for really making this happen and inviting us and just being such a visionary to bring all of us together. We're really grateful to all of you who have tuned in, and we hope you enjoyed a good evening of music. And so we'll end with Iniche Kosobe. Thank you very much. And then, if that wasn't enough, you can ask us anything you want. In a Q&A directly after the performance. It's really just one of the best ways to take advantage of the interactive possibility here for a live stream, and we hope you'll stay tuned and ask any one of us a question that you have. Thanks again, and this is Necres Pesrev, La Muerte del Ángel, and Iniche Kosobe. you for sticking around. We're so excited to have this opportunity to answer your questions. You can ask anything you want, but we are not obligated to answer them per our contract. And, keep them appropriate. This is a classy operation here. But we're really here to get to know you a little bit through the screen. So thanks for sticking around. And to start us off, maybe I'll ask the first question. And essentially, each of us has a different relationship here with the Neighborhood Arts program of the Celebrity Series of Boston. And Francesca, you're in a group called Castle of Our Skins. How long have you been associated with the Neighborhood Arts program?
Yes, so I believe the first time I did anything with the Neighborhood Arts program, was through Castle of Our Skins, through, I think, the South End String Fest. And I believe that was in I don't know if I've lost all sense of time, but it was maybe 2 years ago or something, or at most 2 years ago. So it was just after I moved to Boston, and we worked with the students of the CMCB, Community Music Center of Boston. I remember a number of them were working on some Florence Price, so that was really fun. But in general, we've had a lot of different, partnerships with Celebrity Series over the years, so it's been really great every time.
Nice. And Jesse, your project is Hub New Music. Tell us about its relationship with Neighborhood Arts.
Yeah, Hub New Music. We're pretty recent collaborators with the Celebrity Series of Boston and Neighborhood Arts, but already we've had some really great projects cooking up. I mean, I think our first interaction with them was only last season when we brought our Soul House project featuring dancers from Urbanity Dance, and Neighborhood Arts hosted that, and it was really awesome. But Neighborhood Arts is sort of giving Hub New Music sort of a local incubator for some projects and some new pieces that are coming up that we're really grateful for the opportunity to get to play them here locally before we take them on the road all over the country.
And Javier, you're involved deeply with the Project STEP program, which luckily you invited me to just take part in for the first time this summer, but I've heard about it for years. Tell us about what that project is about.
Yeah, so Project STEP is a string training program for students from underrepresented communities in classical music. So that's primarily Black, Latino, and we provide long-term comprehensive instruction. So most of our students are with us from kindergarten through 12th grade, and in addition to getting an instrument and lessons, they also get orchestra, chamber music, music theory, workshops, master classes, the whole thing.
Fantastic. Yeah. So I think we have our first question from the audience, potentially. Yeah. So I'm just going to throw this out, and if anybody has a passionate answer, please chime in. Throughout your career, which composers have influenced you or changed your playing the most?
Oh, that's a great question.
Which composers have affected the way that you play the cello? well, Bach, I guess. It's the obvious answer here. I don't know.
Well, you guys think about it, I want to throw it back to, he is a composer, but we know him as a cellist. We talked about him earlier, Pablo Casals. He was one of my earliest influences, and I came to know later on that he was also a composer. But just his playing, his musicality, his humanity is one of the earliest influences that I had for me.
Wow. And there's a strong legacy specifically in Puerto Rico that he left. How long did he spend there?
He lived essentially the second half of his life.
Yeah, which was a long life.
So we consider him Puerto Rican, even though he's originally from Spain.
Yeah.
But during the Franco regime, he left. He lived the second half of his life, and there's a rich legacy of Casals in Puerto Rico.
Very nice.
I mean, I'm sure Jesse and I might have, because to jump on Jesse's answer, I think for me, Bach, but not necessarily because Bach has influenced my playing per se, but for some reason, I mean, related to Casals, I think Casals had this revelation himself, but every time I come back to a Bach suite, it feels very different. And I always learn something new out of it. So in that sense, it's probably the composer that consistently challenges me every time I come back to it, and I have to kind of rethink my approach to what I'm doing.
Nice.
But it feels fresh every time, even though it's 400 years old almost.
Yeah, 300, yeah. So this is a good question. I have a feeling this is coming from a musician. When you're learning how to play, before you're good, presumably there's a long period where we're not good. How do you motivate yourself to keep working for something that maybe you haven't achieved yet?
I think it's different for everybody, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll say for me, when I was younger, especially probably until college, no, through college, am I kidding? I think like the community of musicians I got to work with was my biggest influence. So I think I had a hard time, sorry teachers, but I had a hard time being motivated by my teachers per se when they would throw a new rep at me, but.
And who were your teachers?
Oh boy.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh boy. I'm sure they're all watching. But I think I had a hard time motivating myself for solo repertoire, but it was chamber music and sometimes orchestral environments, like if I went to summer camps and things like that. That's usually where I made my most progress because I was around a bunch of like-minded people in my age who were all trying to do the same things. So I think it was the sense of community that kept me practicing. So I know it's especially hard, I think, with young musicians in COVID, where you're maybe working from home a lot. I think it's a really different environment than when you get to go to your youth orchestra or your chamber music, whatever that is. You have the one-on-one experience. But that was, I think, my motivator when I was young.
When possible, surround yourself with other people who are like-minded and enthusiastic and passionate as well, and it'll sort of rub off on you. That's a good answer.
I mean, if you're a young cellist out there, I bet you there's another young cellist within a 0.5-mile radius. You should make cello dates. They're great.
There's an app to be made, but
yes.
I like your point. I mean, no matter what level you're at, there's such a peer community that develops, whether you're a 10-year-old beginner or a professional, here in Boston, connecting with other musicians of similar interest and likely level is really the key for everyone to enjoy doing what they're doing, even if it's just Twinkle Little Star, at the very beginning. We have another question. Cello quartet is an unusual configuration. What's different about working in this environment? What's special about it? I will say that, cello quartets, there's not like a lot of touring cello quartets, but they do exist. And not only that, but cellists are particularly community-minded. And so there is a strong tradition of cello ensemble music. Even in the 1800s, Julius Klengel, one of the great cello teachers of his era, wrote a piece called Hymnus for 12 cellos, which is still played regularly by cellists today. And just, I think, through logistics and the connection to our string quartet community, that the idea of a cello quartet, I think, is actually quite common, just maybe within our own insular community. But even, this is the first time we've gotten to play together, so it feels special. But the Boston Cello Quartet here with 4 members of the symphony, they regularly play and develop repertoire. And so, I don't know how you guys feel playing in a quartet, but it's like this special energy we spend to be able to play with other cellists. Because obviously, if you haven't learned anything through this concert, but one thing, it should be that cello is the greatest instrument in the world, and that with 4 cellos combined, there's nothing you can't do. And so for us, it's rare we get to play in a chamber ensemble with other cellists. So that's, I think, what's special. And like in our first rehearsal, we were sitting in a circle, and I was just being blasted by 3 gorgeous cello sounds, which, is not something I had experienced this whole year.
I mean, probably one thing that's always a little challenging is because obviously our range is very similar, that sometimes it's almost like too much fun. Like we bask in the richness of our sound that we then remember, oh wait, we can't all do that all the time. So that's probably a challenge that's a little different from a string quartet, where I think as cellists we probably get to, lay the foundation on our own quite a bit. Sorry, not on our own, I mean in collaboration with others. Sorry.
Yeah, they follow us well. Yeah.
We drive the bus.
Nice. Okay. I see one question here that's just for me, apparently. I do record a lot, so this is about my next album. It is my next album is a duo project with the great Indian tabla player Sandeep Das. I met Sandeep through the Silk Road Ensemble, which we've both played in for many years, and we both live in Boston now. We have a duo project, so that's the next album coming out in February. But it's the follow-up question is, do we plan to record these trio arrangements of the Bach suites? There's an entire first suite that exists, and obviously the potential for more suites. It's possible for sure. If we were going to do it, we'd probably do it here. This is the beautiful Futura Studios, where I did record the complete Bach cello suites as written, solo. And so it's nice to play these pieces back here. But, I'm actually, with those Bach trio arrangements, I'm almost more interested to see what other people do with them. And I worry if I record them, like all the parts myself or something during the pandemic, that maybe that would ruin it for other people to find their way of doing it. So I'm not going to commit to anything at this moment.
Can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah. Let's see, maybe we have just a few more questions before we let you all go about your evenings here. Do you guys have any questions for each other? You know, we've been working so hard, you know.
When was your first cello ensemble experience? I'll start with mine. With me, it was in undergrad in college, and I remember to this day, it was just an eye-opening experience. I loved chamber music before that, and I loved it even more. I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah.
So just the beauty and blend of the instrument, and obviously the range of the instrument, and the personalities of cellists. We're just so, as you said, community-oriented. We just really support each other. And in connection to the other question about motivation, it's just when I play with cellists, especially, you know, cellists like my three colleagues on stage, rather than being intimidated, I always feel inspired. And that's one of those things that for me all along, you know, I've learned so much from peers and colleagues, and rather than being afraid of, you know, hanging out, and I feel like there's this community of support with cellists that we always want to, you know, we've learned from our mentors, and we also want to pass that along, not just to our students, but also to our colleagues. So that's just something that I've learned since day one of doing cello ensemble.
That's great.
I have the most fond memories of being in high school and playing Apocalyptica arrangements.
Yeah, right.
That was my first experience with the cello quartets, and I will always remember those fondly. And there's never a bad time to dust those songs back off and play them again, I think.
Nice.
And similarly in high school, so my teacher decided to do a whole studio cello ensemble concert, because I think that year there was 12 of us, but it was whole range. I mean, I think the youngest person was 7, the oldest person was 17. So we did, there's a lot of stuff out there for that many cellos, it turns out.
Yeah.
Like the Bacchianas Brasileiras, and there's some other opera arrangements and things like that. So I remember it being both a little traumatizing, because it sounded very interesting, because, you know, it was a lot of people, a lot of young people, but it was really, really fun, really fun.
My teacher in high school, Carter Enyart, I grew up in Kansas City, and he ran a camp for a few years while I was in high school called the Kansas City Cello Clinic, and he was good friends with Douglas Moore, who made many of the arrangements that you might be familiar with. I think he made the Barber Seville arrangement that is the nightmare of many cellists who get assigned to part 1. But essentially, you know, like, that was some of my most formative community building experiences with other cellists, is playing in that cello ensemble and with the arranger conducting, and you know, just inspired by this idea that, you know, we can choose to adapt music for us, even if it wasn't explicitly written for us. And that's, you know, hopefully that's kind of part of our message of the whole evening, really. Whether you are blessed to play cello, or if you are just a lowly citizen of the world. Let's end with one last question. Just if anybody has any upcoming projects, albums, or anything else you're looking forward to.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. You know, obviously with COVID, I think for all of us, it's such a different landscape musically. So there is, the amount of activity musically is a lot, you know, different than normal. But one of the things that has been really inspiring is just the creative solutions, you know, that we've, you know, many organizations have done. And one of particular project that's coming up is with Shelter Music Boston. It's an organization where we play professional classical musicians prepare concerts that we share with homeless shelters. So right now what we're doing is recording them virtually, and then we send them to the homeless shelters. So that's one project that I'm looking forward to.
Fantastic.
Many stuff to top that. My quartet, Hub New Music, just released this fall our debut album, Soul House, which we're really proud of. You can find that on our website at hubnewmusic.org. Our next concerts are all digital, of course. We've got a show coming up in January with the Arizona Friends of Chamber Music. That's featuring a premiere of music by Christeson. And then we're absolutely delighted that in March, we're actually being hosted by the Neighborhood Arts to do a concert, I believe right here in the studio, featuring one or two premieres of new works that have been written for us during the pandemic. So we'd love to have you for that one.
Yeah, and similarly, I mean, I think these have been adapted. So I'm grateful that a few projects from way back at the beginning of this year that had been canceled amidst the pandemic will be happening, but everything will be pre-recorded. I actually don't know when my next live stream concert is in terms of something happening in the moment, but my website, francescamcneeley.com, I keep that stuff up there. But off the top of my head, I don't actually know what date things are releasing, but there's some things coming up with Castle for Skins that I'm excited about. So.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Thank you again, Iniche Kosobe, to the Celebrity Series of Boston, and to Robin Baker and the Neighborhood Arts Program. Everybody here at Futura and the Loop Lab for making us look and sound as good as possible. Thank you for all of you for tuning in. And we hope you have a good night and hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Francesca, Javier, Jesse, and Mike for sharing their musical gifts and insight with us today. Please know how grateful we are to you, our audience of music lovers and friends through Neighborhood Arts, for your support as well. On behalf of the Celebrity Series of Boston, good night and take care.